witches. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than it usually is. I feel like I've been on a streak of doing like really lecture-y videos, or like here's how you do this thing, or here are the correspondences for this thing, like in the last month and especially yesterday. But today I wanted just to touch on something that does actually correspond with moon magic, specifically in the phase that we're in, and that is my solitary practice. So if you guys remember yesterday's video, or if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It's pretty good. You'll remember that I said, I was talking about doing, or like how you might be feeling a little bit more reclusive. And the waning moon is really a lot about like introspection. So it's all about, you know, some self-thought, self-reflection, and figuring out what you need to work on in the upcoming month ahead, if that makes any sense. So as we get towards the new moon, I will talk more and more on that. But right now, because we are in a waning phase, it is much more the phase that is associated with solitude, with quiet, with rest, and like I said, with introspection. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's really cool. Also, today's video, this is the like halfway point of the entire project, which is like really exciting. I definitely didn't think I was gonna make it this far, like truly. And I think yesterday I was talking about how like I feel really burned out. And it's true. But I'm also really, really exhilarated because I mean, my craft has transformed exponentially since I started this whole thing. Like it's just been like it's been a ride already. So I'm really excited for the next 6 months, the next 183 videos. So, but yeah, I wanted to kind of like, I think it's cool that this is the halfway point because now I can kind of reflect on how my craft has been in the past. And that has been primarily solitarily. As you guys know, I didn't really, like I talked about witchcraft and stuff on my Instagram, and a couple of my friends knew, but I never really practiced on such a public scale, I feel. I mean, maybe I'm wrong in that, I don't know. Like I think people knew I was a witch, but they weren't like, I didn't share too many pictures of like all of my altars and like talking about my relationships with deities and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that it has become very much public, which is cool. It's a little bit daunting sometimes, and sometimes I fall into the trap of like, am I not a witch enough? Like, oh my gosh, should I be doing X, Y, and Z? Like, I need to be practicing more. Oh my God. But that's just my own brain. You know, I'm able to like step out of that and like be like, okay, you're fine. But like I said, like a lot of my practice prior to this was really private and also solitary. So I think that really has transformed my craft and made it my own. Yeah, so I know that there are people who have maybe only worked in a coven setting or born into like a witchy family and have been kind of in that group setting their whole lives. And I think that is amazing. Don't get me wrong. Like if you have a tradition that is handed down to you, that is so cool. That being said, I think that because my craft was my own for so long and I developed a lot of my own practices within relative solitude, there weren't a whole lot of resources when I first started my craft, like at all. So I kind of just went by intuition, which is something that I think is really invaluable to witchcraft. I think relying on your intuition is such a cool skill, and it is like, it's just very useful for a witch, for anybody, but specifically for witchcraft, I think there is a general like need for intuition, if that makes any sense. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it's great that I had the ability to develop that at a really young age and have that from like basically like the core of my craft. And you know, like I said, there weren't a lot of resources, and I wasn't really openly talking about my craft with people simply because like I was a minor and I wasn't allowed to do certain things. My parents actually had like restrictions on like certain websites, like social media and stuff like that when I was growing up. Up until the time I was like maybe a teenager, but either way, it still wasn't like I, you know, actively sought that stuff out. I mean, once I got on like Tumblr and Instagram and stuff, that's kind of where it more took off. But for the most part, I had the resources that I could get my hands on, like at the library and like on Wikipedia, which is not the best, but if you scroll all the way down, there are some primary sources, which is something I always recommend looking into. Anyways, yeah, so like having that relative isolation really did change things for me. I think that no matter if I choose to pursue a coven setting for practicing, I will always be a solitary witch at heart. I think that I always want to be kind of a pillar in the pagan community. Like, that is my goal. Like, I really want to be someone who, you know, is known for teaching people and like helping and healing and spreading love around the community. That is really, really important to me. But I also think that, you know, there is something to be said about having things that you just keep for yourself, like workings that you just do for yourself, or workings that you don't necessarily do with your coven. Like, I don't think that, you know, in any coven structure that is required. And I think you are encouraged to have your own practice. But yeah, I just think that there is such a huge, like, I hold my own practice and my own path to be very, very sacred. Like, it is a very sacred thing to me that I have this thing, because it's one of the only things that has survived from like when I was growing up. I've always had witchcraft. That's just been the thing that I have had since I had like conscious thought, really. Okay, maybe not conscious thought because I was like 4, but you know what I mean? Like in terms of like me understanding the ways of the world and working to create the adult I am today. So that started when I was like 13 and first like learning about this and like kind of thinking about the kind of person I wanted to be when I was like, you know, an adult. And I still continue to do that today. So like, I'm like, okay, well, here's where I am now. Like, what are my goals when I'm 30? And how do I get from point A, which is here, and to point B, which is there? So that's a long-winded tangent. I don't know. But I think that like having my own personal thing is very, very important, very sacred to me, and I would not trade it for the world. I think that every witch deserves to have their own practice and, you know, create their own magic if they want to. But I totally understand people who just simply want to do a group setting. Like, that is, again, a-okay. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the community that I have found already, and I think it's amazing that the internet has afforded us the ability to like connect with other witches, and I know more witches now than I ever thought I actually would, and I'm like, oh, you're a witch too? Awesome, like, cool. And I've gained so many friends and talked to so many people from like around the world that I never thought that I would have the chance to. So, you know, don't get me wrong. I think group settings and, you know, communities are great, but I think that when you do work on your own practice, it's working on yourself. And I think that transformation, I mean, I work with a goddess of transformation, so maybe that's why I'm just like, but I think that's really important. So I do encourage you guys to like explore that if you're interested in it. And just really, really take some time, especially during this moon, to focus on yourself and think about like what you want for your life and what you want for your practice and how you want to move forward. And, you know, whether that be in your practice or within your life, honestly, I think that's just kind of like a good thing to be introspective about during this phase of the moon. So we're tying it all back in, instead of me just ranting for like 10 minutes. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about like my solitary practice. And this, of course, is my own experience. And it has been such a profound thing in my life, especially during times where I thought I had no stability. This is like my one stable thing, which is why I think I love it so much. But yeah, I love being a solitary witch, like truly, but I'm also really, really thankful for my community. So there are two sides to that coin. And I really encourage you guys to explore both. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. We're talking about a super cool concept. And again, that video will probably be a little bit later in the day because I'm filming throughout the day. So I'll be like carrying you guys around on a very witchy, intuitive day. So yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic Friday and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.